Well, things have been a little bit quiet in the NBA. That's to be expected, of course, and during the off season, as we await the 2016-2017 NBA season. Of course, we just came off of that very exciting playoff run by the Cleveland Cavaliers, as they were able to come back from a 3-1 series deficit against the historic Golden State Warriors, who won a record 73 regular season games. And Cleveland was able to win a title in 7 games. And it's the first ever title for the Cleveland Cavaliers franchise, and it's the first championship for the city of Cleveland in 52 years since Jim Brown led his Cleveland Browns to an NFL title. This is before the days of the Super Bowl, but he led his team to an NFL title against, I believe it was the Baltimore Colts in 1964. Now, much of the talk during the offseason was Kevin Durant joining the Golden State Warriors, and you guys know how I feel about that. But LeBron James he said recently in a Sports Illustrated interview that there's one thing that motivates him now, and that is supplanting Michael Jordan as the recognized greatest NBA player of all time. Now, of course, things like this, who people feel is the greatest player in NBA history, things like that are subjective. I would say that if you look at a lot of television, if you look at listen to a lot of different media outlets, then you probably will come away with the opinion that it's Michael Jordan. I think it's Michael Jordan, but I have no problem if people think that the greatest player of all time is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who I think is the greatest basketball player of all time. I have no problem if people think it's Wilt Chamberlain, who I still think is the most dominant NBA player of all time. Someone recently told me in the comment section that they thought it was Shaq and not Wilt, but how can you think it's that? I mean, how many records does Shaq hold? I think Shaq might hold the record for most seasons leading the NBA field goal percentage. I think that's the only one that comes to mind. I think he holds also a record for highest scoring average in NBA Finals. I think it is at 36.3 or something like that. But other than that, oh yeah, and I think Rick Barry shares that record too. I think they both average about 36.3 points per game or something like that. Because I think Barry played in 2 finals, 67 and 75. I think in 75 he averaged 30 points, and in 67 he averaged like 40 or something like that. But that's it. I mean, Chamberlain holds about 70 records. This is a man who started his career in 1959, 57 years ago. So, he still holds numerous records. Most points in the game, 100. Most points scored in the season, 4,029. The only player to ever average not 40 points per game in the season, let alone 50. Most rebounds in the game, 55. Highest rebounding average in the season, 27.2. This is a guy who finished his career averaging 30.1 points per game. But that's mainly due to the fact that he changed his style of play the latter half of his career, and became more and more. He went from being a balanced player who was like the third option on scoring, or second or third option, to being basically a Bill Russell type player. He only averaged like 10, 14. I think he even had one season averaging 8 points a game, I think his last year. But at one point in time in his career, Chamberlain averaged 39.5 points per game. He averaged nearly 40 points per game in his peak. So there's no question in my mind that Chamberlain is the most dominant NBA player of all time. But anyway, this video is about LeBron James. LeBron James wants to be recognized as the greatest player of all time. As he says, he's chasing the ghost of Michael Jordan. He says that he thinks that what Michael did was extraordinary, and that's what he's motivated to do, to win more MVPs and win more championships and whatnot. This is my thoughts on this. I always thought that this isn't the first time we've heard this discussion. We heard this with Kobe Bryant.
This is a J Styles production.
And I've always stated that, maintained that today's players have a built-in advantage, a lot of them, because they come into the pros a lot earlier than they did during Michael's era. During Michael's era, most players played all the way through college. Michael came out a year early, after 3 years at North Carolina, and went pro. Now you got guys like Kobe Bryant and LeBron James, and that no longer is the case because of the rule implemented, but still you had a generation of guys like Kobe Bryant and LeBron James and Dwight Howard and Kevin Garnett. You had these guys, Amari Stoudemire, who recently retired, who went from prep to pro, so they've had an extra 3 or 4 year head start in their career. Kobe didn't quite play on Michael's level, but he is, in my eyes, the second or third greatest shooting guard of all time. LeBron James, I don't know whether or not he'll ever attain the greatness that Michael reached. If you look at different things, okay, I think you can make the argument that LeBron James is a better passer. I think he has one of the highest basketball IQs right now, but that's also in a league where basketball IQ has dropped precipitously over the past decade or decade and a half. But I don't know. I don't know what it is that he is looking for. I don't know whether just because you win a couple more MVPs and win a couple more titles, it doesn't automatically make you better than Michael Jordan or as good as Michael Jordan, because there were so many different things that set him and LeBron apart. And I always say this, even though I think what Kevin Durant did was far worse, or at least worse, there will always be that stain on LeBron James' legacy because he quit on Cleveland the first time in 2010. That doesn't go away. All right, that's his Watergate. All right, that's his Iran-Contra. That's his Whitewater. That's his Monica Lewinsky. It's never going away. All right. Maybe as time goes by, the sting of it, gets a little bit less, and the scar heals to an extent. But every time we revisit it, every time we poke at it, it starts to bleed again. It starts to, abscess. It's never going away. Also, I think that even though this is Michael Jordan's fault more than anything, Michael Jordan had a somewhat incomplete career because he retired twice when he probably shouldn't have. Who knows what more he could have accomplished had he never retired in '93 and missed 1 3/4 seasons, and then retired in January '99 and missed 2 other seasons. I strongly feel that if Michael Jordan didn't retire, at the very least, he would have won 2 more NBA championships. I think that they would have won it in '94, and I think they would have won it in a strike-shortened year of '99. '95 I'm not certain of because of the loss of Horace Grant. But then again, when you have Michael Jordan, we never seen him lose in the finals, so maybe they'll figure out some way to beat whoever the opponent would have been. I guess would have been the Houston Rockets. But I don't know. I don't know whether LeBron James can ever pass Michael Jordan as the greatest player of all time. I think Michael was a better athlete. And, a lot of people who are younger, they look at clips of Jordan from the mid to late 90s, and they laugh and scoff when I say that. But that was an older Jordan who had like a 30, probably like a 36, 37-inch vertical. Still was really quick, but not quite as quick as he used to be. Okay, this was a 35-year-old Jordan who clearly lost something after that first retirement. But in his prime, Jordan had a 48-inch vertical. 48-inch vertical had a 40, what was it? A 40-yard dash speed of what was it? 4.3 seconds or something like that. And he was a better leader. He just did things in a traditional manner, all right? When it comes to the level of competition that he played against, as opposed to LeBron, I think that's also a deciding factor. You look at the fact that, people say that Michael lost, 9 of his first 10 playoff games. Well, all I gotta tell you is look at the rosters of those teams that he played against. Like, people say, he lost to the Bucks. Do you know who were on those Bucks teams? All right, those Bucks teams were just under the radar from teams like the Pistons and the Celtics and the 76ers. As a matter of fact, I think by 85, 86, they were better than the 76ers. So they were just under the radar. They just couldn't beat the Celtics and the Pistons in the East. But those teams were winning 55, 59, 57 games. All right. But anyway, that's the competition that Michael had to play against on a 98-night-out basis. And if it wasn't for his presence, they would have not made the playoffs at all. But eventually, it took him a while, but Michael figured out how to beat certain teams. And once he figured out how to do it, there was no stopping him. The same reason why, when he retired in 93, other teams breathed a sigh of relief because they were like, well, wow, we finally get a chance to win. People don't feel that same way about LeBron. I mean, people feel that his teams are beatable. People didn't feel that way about Michael Jordan. The fear factor is another thing. Like, when he came back out of retirement, people didn't quite fear him because he wasn't the same guy. And that motivated him to completely alter his game and approach the game in a different way. But the fear factor came back. And, and it wasn't like Jordan wasn't playing against competition. I think the only year where Michael didn't play against the best team in the Western Conference was probably 91. 91 was the only year I could think of when the 58-24, I think it was their record, 58-24 Los Angeles Lakers, led by Magic Johnson, upset the Portland Trailblazers in the Western Conference Finals. That's it. The Portland Trailblazers in 92, that might have been their best team overall. I think they went 63-19. In 93, there was the Phoenix Suns. That might be their best team overall, 62-20, led by MVP Charles Barkley. In 96, that's probably the best ever Sonics team. They went 64-18. Max Kellerman was wrong when he said 63 wins. They went 64-18. The 94 team that lost to the Denver Nuggets in the first round was 63-19. The 96 team was 64-18. And led by Defensive Player of the Year, Gary Payton led the NBA in steals at 2.85 steals per game. And those 97-98 Utah teams were the best ever Utah Jazz teams. Why didn't these teams win championships? Because of one player, Michael Jordan.